Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 25 career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. We are finally making some progress in our Connor Sport car, now above Kick Sauber when it comes to the R&D. Red Bull is still trying to stretch out their gap over McLaren as we continue to develop upgrades to this car. Both myself and you can see Aiden Jackson, our teammate as well, has several upgrades that he is focusing on within our team. So we only have 4 on the way right now, but hopefully going into next episode, so following this Bahrain Grand Prix, we might have a very real chance to move up the ladder a little bit further and maybe leapfrog a few teams. Now, as we had some breaking news coming into this weekend from Oscar Piastri and McLaren, and it's exciting news. It's that he will be racing alongside the NASCAR Cup Series grid at the Chicago Street Course later this season for Trackhouse Racing's Project 91. Now, I envy exactly what he is doing, and I'm trying to be able to get into a position where we can do the same thing as well going forward and leapfrog into different motorsports as well, to kind of show what the Formula One side of things can do. But Piastri has expressed his interest in hopping behind the wheel of a NASCAR stock car before, so completely makes sense to see him line up with Trackhouse's Project 91 for the Chicago Street Course later this season. We'll be, of course, keeping tabs, seeing how he does, as it will be an F1 off weekend. As you can see, a bit of a mistake there from myself in practice going for a spin. That would be it for us in practice here now, but we ended up P3 on the board, but obviously we take our practice time with a grain of salt there. As you can see, Kimi Antonelli all the way at the bottom of the grid, but he seems to be improving over these last few races, so wouldn't be surprised if we see another strong effort from him here today. And now we roll into qualifying as well. By the way, if my mic sounds different again, I am away from home on a different mic. But I've been continuing to tweak the settings. I think it's starting to sound a bit better as you see us getting ready to strap into this number 99 Butler Global machine and get ready to go qualifying here. Now, Next Level Racing on board. Use code GOIN25 with the referral link down below. You can get Next Level Racing products for 5% off, as we were looking for that comfort here, just trying to push the limit. This is the first time this weekend that I really had tested the limit of this car, and usually I try to do it right away in practice. Didn't quite do it here in practice, of course, with wrecking myself out, or harmless spin it was, of course, but my first lap was only good enough for P16, so we go out and make another lap late in the session. Obviously, P16 with 22 cars will get you through. That's the last advancing position here in Q1, but wasn't confident that was going to stick, so I was looking for some extra time here now, and we had been finding the time over the course of this lap. Going through turn 10, you can see the gain down the DRS straight, but by the final turn, we've gained 6.5, maybe 7 tenths, nearly 8 tenths. It will go up to 8 tenths of a second as we come through to cross the line. It will be comfortably into Q2. We will take it, I say comfortably, P14. Aiden Jackson, our teammate, however, P6. A great effort from him is Gasly. Alonso and his Aston Martin teammate of Stroll out in Q1. Same for Isaac Hadjar, Ollie Berriman, as well as Gabriel Bortoleto as we come through into Q2. And I make a big mistake immediately and had to cancel the lap after locking up. And this is the only set of softs I had left that were fresh, so I had to just slow down, save up the battery, and now we go in for another lap. And fully expectation, of course, is that we're only going to get to Q2 and we're not going to be able to advance into Q3, but of course doing the best lap I possibly can to try and get ourselves close. Lewis Hamilton again outside the top 10, qualifying not looking so good for him. It seems like he and Ferrari struggling a little bit lately here in qualifying trim as we come through into this penultimate turn. And obviously the time delta there, gain of 11.9, now 12 seconds, completely irrelevant because I spent that last lap saving my battery and just trying to keep the tires warm. But we come to the line, drain my battery a little bit, and we end up P15 of 15 cars. It just didn't quite happen. Aiden Jackson goes P12, but Hamilton does not improve. Lewis Hamilton out in Q1. Jack Doohan there, the first driver out. Both of the Williams advanced into Q3. Some work for us, some serious work for Lewis Hamilton as we head into the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Now it runs at night. Welcome to the Bahrain International Circuit and welcome to the Bahrain Grand Prix. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Piastri, Tsunoda, George Russell and Sainz, Antonelli, Leclerc, Albon and Liam Lawson, Doohan, Jackson, Esteban Ocon and Hulkenberg, Golden Boy, Gasly, Fernando Alonso and Isaac Hadjar, Behrman, Bortoletto, Hamilton and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Right then, so you see the strategy starting on softs. We'll go to the mediums, then switch over to the hards. 3-stop is an option, but we are going to avoid that here. I think the 2-stop is going to be the way to go, and 1-stop completely out of the picture.
Here we go then, the formation lap is underway and the track temperature looks warm. That may or may not play into some of the team's hands in today's race.
The top two, Verstappen and Norris, both starting on softs, but you see some differing strategy throughout the grid. Some drivers electing on hards, Hamilton with the grid penalty, and one of those drivers switching over to the hard compound.
As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
So then we're ready to go racing here from Bahrain. The big question is, can McLaren step back up and get in front of Max Verstappen here into turn 1 and hold him off for the Grand Prix? I mean, Verstappen and Red Bull themselves have really made some upgrades and have lunged back in front of McLaren, which is a bit unexpected considering how 2024 went, even though, of course, Verstappen was the eventual World Drivers' Champion. 29 laps of racing here from the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's 5 red lights, and we're about to go racing. Here we are, lights out, racing under the lights for the first time in our F1 career, and look at the start from the Frenchman of Pierre Gasly there in the Alpine. On this run into turn 1, Verstappen's got the field covered, no pressure whatsoever, and actually the pair of Mercedes are about to split the McLarens. Yuki Tsunoda's getting after it there with one of the Williams. Now they're all scrapping it out early on here. Now Tsunoda to the left side trying to get himself back forward. You see 2 by 2 of the Mercedes and the McLarens there side by side. Max Verstappen's gone already well outside of the DRS range. He says see you later, and he's going to go on cruise control, or at least attempt to go on cruise control to try and win this race and maintain the gap now, as you can continue to see the side-by-side action, as now the Mercedes is really going to do a good job of splitting up the McLarens tonight, and that just made McLaren's night really difficult, as of course their goal was, if they couldn't get the lead into turn 1, at least come out second and third, and of course they're in front of the Red Bulls. There's a bit of a mistake into turn 10, but obviously that was nearly worst case scenario start for the McLarens. I mean, the only way it could have really gone worse was either if they crashed or if both Mercedes got in front of both McLarens instead of just splitting them. But nonetheless, that just made the night really difficult for McLaren. How about Kimi Antonelli stepping up as well, running in the top 5 here as we're all over the back of Pierre Gasly now as we come through this penultimate corner. My teammate of Aiden Jackson, a solid start in P12, and we find ourselves in P14 after qualifying, of course. P15, Charles Leclerc, by the way, talk about terrible starts, qualifying up in the top 5, and here he is now under pressure as we come through to the start of lap 2, and I nearly run into the back of Pierre Gasly right there, but now Aiden Jackson's going to go through, and I just saw right there, they still have that end of lap 1 ghosting problem with the AI that's been a thing for, I don't know, 4-5 years it feels like at this point. I might be over exaggerating a little bit, but You can see here Charles Leclerc really struggling, and now he's trying to fight back against Pierre Gasly. As for myself, I just have the best seat in the house to this battle, but the problem is I'm watching my teammate of Aiden Jackson kind of drive off in the distance. As you can see now, Oscar Piastri, going for a move on Kimi Antonelli here, starting lap 4 with the DRS. Antonelli is not going to give this one up easily now, and Yuki Tsunoda followed by as well Albon and Sainz right there to pounce in the background as well. How about Jack Doohan and Liam Lawson both up inside the top 10? They're scrapping it out in the background as well. As you can see, Piastri gonna get the job done there, puts himself back into 4th. So now it's going to be just one Mercedes in front of the pair of McLarens, but obviously the damage is done after that start. Verstappen's already driving off, and they both need to find a way past George Russell here within the next couple of laps, but Piastri's got a large gap to make up before he can even consider passing George Russell. Meanwhile, Lando Norris is really on the back of his gearbox, pressuring him, so wouldn't be surprised with an overtake there within the next couple of laps. Speaking of overtakes, Leclerc trying to get himself back into the points. They continue to scrap it out with Pierre Gasly, and now Leclerc did start on that hard compound tire. He's fighting drivers that are on the softs, the mediums as well, so it's not necessarily a surprise that he had a bad start and went backwards, but as far backwards as he dropped, and he's struggling a lot. That's the probably surprising bit now. As you can see, these two continue to battle, but it's going to be Gasly who comes out on top, and both Ferraris outside of the top 10 currently. Lewis Hamilton continuing to try and move his way forward as we come to lap 6 at this point, approaching lap 7. Lando Norris, he's going to go through into the 2nd position now, but you see the gap, 4 seconds. That's really unlikely for him to make up, even if he's got a faster car. And then a lap later, Yuki Tsunoda actually passes Kimi Antonelli with the DRS. So Tsunoda picking up his first podium last episode at home in the Japanese Grand Prix with the special Red Bull livery as well. That was such an awesome moment and an awesome race for Yuki Tsunoda. Red Bull as well, of course, coming home with both cars on the podium. A big deal for this season when they kind of came in not necessarily as an underdog, but I don't know really anyone that thought Red Bull would be at the top throughout this season, and here they are putting themselves, of course, both cars on the podium. Top step of the podium now as Aiden Jackson comes into the pits. I'm still watching some battles here. Liam Lawson, Charles Leclerc. We're going to be boxing at the end of this 9th lap. We'll be putting on the mediums. We're running all 3 compounds here today. A bit of a lockup into turn 1, leaving the door open for the German driver of Nico Hülkenberg, but fortunately able to kind of keep him behind myself there as we are already now under pressure again on the run now into turn 4. We'll leave the room and we'll just kind of keep it around the outside, and we would be able to stay clear. So no issues there as we come to the end of lap 9. It's time to pit. The tire light is coming on there on the MFD, so it's certainly time. We're hitting the danger zone with the tire wear, so it's time to get in and replace tires now as we've got yellow flags, and it's Ollie Behrman who is stretching it on the hards. Got a mechanical failure night over there for a fellow rookie driver. So that takes one car, of course, out of the running. We're down to 21 cars, and no mechanical failures for us yet in this career mode. But I've been watching other content creators make their career mode videos, and I don't recall yet seeing a single one have a mechanical failure. Now, you guys can correct me down below in the comments, but it almost seems like player mechanical failures aren't a thing right now, which I believe was an issue in, what was it, F1 23 or F1 24, and they had to patch it in. Correct me if I'm wrong on both points there, but I feel like that's been the case, and it almost seems like it's a bug that has returned somehow out of the laziness of Codemasters and EA. But nonetheless, we continue on our race, passing Lewis Hamilton, who's in the pit lane. He is struggling to go forward. He had his struggles in Japan, but worked his way to a decent result. Of course, he had some mechanical issues there that hurt him. It wasn't necessarily a pace issue, as Aiden Jackson's been overtaken now by Liam Lawson, and now it's again Connor Sport currently running P12, P13 here as we approach the halfway point of this race. And I've got a mirror full of fellow Canadian of Lance Stroll, and then Fernando Alonso, of course, the 2-time champion, trying to pressure his teammate, who's trying to put some pressure on myself here now as we continue to reel in Aiden Jackson, who's on the hard. So this was expected. He's going, of course, onto the hards now. He's going to end the race on I guess the medium tire, and he's going to have some good pace at the end. But here comes Charles Leclerc, who went a little bit longer than us, and of course we were able to undercut him for that reason. But now we're really starting to see some of that Ferrari pace, and Lewis Hamilton as well is coming up to the back of us. Look at this, Leclerc trying to get past Aiden Jackson on the run down to turn 11, and Jackson throws a bit of a defensive move now past the halfway point here in Bahrain. First race of the season under the lights. Here comes Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari is starting to go, but of course, the major point here is it's far too late for them to really get any good result out of this race unless some massive curveball gets thrown into the equation with a fortunately timed safety car. Of course, everyone's still going to have to pit one more time here, but not a lot's happening in the race for the lead. I mean, Verstappen's in control, Lando Norris is in second, George Russell's third, Oscar Piastri is about to pass him for fourth. That's pretty well all that's happening here now, as we already cut to lap 18, pit window open again. And of course, we're going to be putting on that hard compound tire. But once again, we're not seeing the Ferraris really show the greatest pace, but Lewis Hamilton going for a move, and again, Jackson goes defensive here on the run through turn 11, really defensive, and that's going to stack them both up, which is perfect for me because it's going to allow me to stay in the DRS. Both of them have enough pace, and unfortunately for me, Jackson has enough pace to probably break away from me at this point in time. So that, of course, was a little bit frustrating, but we're going to come into the pits, and now we're going to try and undercut him. We're bringing Fernando Alonso into the pits as well with us here, but medium tires, they held on fairly well. Actually was really happy with the grip and just how this tire was performing. Question is, how is the hard compound going to perform? We're going to come in, we'll get a new set of Pirellis on. The white striped hard tires come out right in front of Fernando Alonso now, and now it's just a push to the end of this Grand Prix. We find ourselves P17 as we exit. Lance Stroll's coming up behind us. He is not quite able to pull off the undercut, fortunately for us, as we approach these final 10 laps of racing, and Max Verstappen is in full control just like he was last episode. But look at my tire temperatures, really having a difficult time over the course of this outlap getting my tires up to temperature, and that was starting to now put me under pressure from Fernando Alonso as we come through the final turn down the front straightaway. Aiden Jackson, Liam Lawson, a few of the drivers pitting on this lap here. We'll see where Jackson cycles through as we head on this run into turn 1, but here comes Fernando Alonso up the inside as well, and I mean, I felt defenseless right there into this first turn, but look at the front tires, they're still not warming up. Jackson on the hards here, that was a surprise. He's actually going to double hards this up. As you can see now, Alonso's going to get past Jackson as you see me kind of weaving around, just trying to get some temperature in the front tires. They're not warming up. Now look at this battle though between Alonso and Jackson, two rookies right here all over the Spaniard. Now Jackson's going to be able to get back out in front here in this run in towards turn 4, and it's Connor Sport versus Aston Martin. Connor Sport, the only team on the grid without a point this season. We, of course, are a brand new team. It's not necessarily surprising. Alonso going for a move into turn 1. Big moment contact there with Aiden Jackson. Hamilton was exiting the pits, and it looked like Alonso just kind of lost his mind. Fortunately, somehow, it doesn't revolve in damage or anything, so we all managed to escape that one. As you can see, these two continue to scrap it out. As Lewis Hamilton said, I'm out of here. He was leaving these guys behind in his rear view mirror, and he's trying to drive up there to his teammate of Charles Leclerc within these final few laps of racing. And I mean, I'm just continuing to watch this epic scrap between Jackson and Alonso. They go back and forth the whole time. This is great race experience right here for the rookie driver of Aiden Jackson. If you're going to have a scrap with someone, Fernando Alonso is one of the guys you want to have a scrap with, because he actually is one of the few drivers on the Formula One grid of current day that can race wheel to wheel without just running you off the track and saying it's his corner. As we continue to watch this take place, but it looks like Alonso's finally got the job done, and now my main priority was just stay in the DRS of Aiden Jackson. And now we're starting to think, with 5 laps to go, new game plan was to just, how do I get in front of Aiden Jackson before this race is over? And my two hopes were, one, that Jackson is going to eventually lose DRS to Fernando Alonso, and then I was going to save up enough battery that I can really make a last lap charge, or coming to the last lap, starting the final lap down the front straightaway. So I was starting to save some battery and just really start to plan this out to position myself for that coming to the final lap moment, and we could really drain the battery and try to get out in front of Aiden Jackson here. 3 laps to go at this point. Max Verstappen's long gone down the road. He's a full front straightaway ahead of Lando Norris. What could have been if the McLarens didn't get split by the Mercedes in the first moments of this race? Alex Albon, mechanical failure. That's a free position. There he is on the left side of the track, parked up. We're P15 as we come to the final few laps of this race now, as that is going to put us back into our qualifying spot. We didn't really make a whole lot of progress tonight. We're exactly where we started with 2 laps to go here from Bahrain. Yellow's in front. There was actually a spin in turn 1. I forgot to get a replay of this after the race, but it was one of the Alpines that had spun around, and now that doesn't change anything. They got back going in time as we were now coming to the final lap of this Grand Prix, and Aiden Jackson had in fact lost DRS to Fernando Alonso, and I've got 60% battery to use down this front straightaway as the white flag is in the air here from the Bahrain Grand Prix. Do we have enough? Now draining that battery down to 30%. You blow through this battery when you hit overtake 20%. And now Jackson defends into turn 1. Will go alongside around the outside, half a car length on him, nearly clear, not quite clear. Now we are, but he's probably going to try and fight this one back here now as I've completely blew through my battery percentage, and we have just a little bit left, but Jackson's going to fight back wheel to wheel into turn 4. Conesport management maybe doesn't like to see this as we're risking, of course, our cars, but Jackson fights back and gets the job done, and I knew at this point I had used up too much battery. Verstappen wins the Bahrain Grand Prix and, continues Red Bull's rise back up to the top here over these last few races. But I knew right here at this point I didn't have anything for Jackson. I was certainly going to try. As we do have 30% battery, it's all going to happen right here, but losing grip, it wouldn't be enough, and Jackson would just get away on this run to the final turn. But out of the final turn, it's going to be P14 and P15 for Conesport. Nothing to hang our heads low about, but still looking for more. We cross the stripe, we'll take it, but still, as we've been saying, as we've been preaching, work needs to be done, but we are continuing to make that work and make this car better, as Lewis Hamilton, with that grid penalty starting at the back, he will win Driver of the Day.
And in the end, there was no Verstappen. Max Verstappen, he takes victory.
So there you have it. Max Verstappen wins here in Bahrain, first race of several this season under the lights, and Yuki Tsunoda as well pulling off the podium. Actually, I forgot to check the last few laps in the replay after the race, and not quite sure how that happened, because it looked like originally it was going to be Norris and Piastri who had that podium pretty well under control, so I was a bit surprised to see Tsunoda actually take the podium. So nonetheless, Red Bull double podium again. Tsunoda, he is improving, and maybe as this season progresses, he might be able to kind of start to actually threaten Verstappen here at Red Bull. But there you see Piastri ends up P4, Antonelli P5. He continues to improve. He beat his teammate as well of George Russell. Leclerc rebounds to P7, Hamilton P9. Both Ferraris scoring some points considering how the first half of this race went. That's a pretty impressive comeback there. Of course, Albon and Behrman with the DNFs. We'll look at the points. Verstappen continues to extend his gap over Lando Norris. Tsunoda finds himself P3 over Piastri, and Russell the top 5. Antonelli climbing his way up to P8, and there we are in the constructors at the bottom of the grid as Red Bull has a 25-point margin. That's going to wrap it up for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.